Imagine they're not backing net zero, and then next year Australia hosts that COP conference in Adelaide, as Chris Bowen and the Prime Minister are desperately trying to do. And Australians not only know now that it'll cost them $1 billion, but they see that money being spent, they see the chaos on the street, they see all the activists. I just think that's a gift to the coalition, if only they were smart enough to grab it.
Well, I have a very strong view on this, Peter. I want that conference in Adelaide in South Australia because literally every single day in the Adelaide Advertiser, we read about another cafe, another restaurant, another small business that's closing because of the appalling economic situation the state and federal Labor government have put us in. So I want that conference for all of our businesses right here in South Australia. But I have a much better way to fund it because I do not think that Australian taxpayers should pay for this. I think we should ask the likes of Twiggy Forrest and Simon Holmes-A-Court and Malcolm Turnbull, and we should ask all of the multinational renewable energy companies to bankroll this for the good of Australia, to put their money behind what they believe in and bring all of these international people here so they can boost the South Australian economy.
Well, Chris Bowen's free power during the day offer yesterday didn't even survive 24 hours. Experts are out there, Caroline, saying that basically it's a dog of a policy. Who's home during the day to turn on the dishwasher and do what Bowen says? And Saul Kavonik, who we have on this program, he's an energy analyst. He says there's no such thing as a free lunch. He goes on to say that what happens here is the prices of or the free electricity during the day will have to be offset by higher prices at other times of the day to cover fixed costs. It's also been slammed by the Australian Energy Council as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's right. There is no such thing as a free lunch or free electricity. There are going to be people out there who think, woohoo, free power. But as you point out, that there's a very limited number of people who this will apply to. First of all, it only applies to people who are on a default market offer, as it is people with certain devices in their households, which outside of Victoria is only 40% of the population. But on top of that, the retailers are going to have to recoup their margin somehow. So if you're going to have free electricity in the middle of the day when hardly anyone is at home to use it, bar maybe the pensioners and unemployed and some public servants working from home, then people who need it, like most of us, after work, after school, in the evenings, when it's coldest, when we need to run our appliances, we're going to have to pay higher costs. They're not going to be giving it away for free. It's going to come off somewhere else. So ultimately, what this is going to lead to is people being penalised for using electricity when they actually need it. And that is obviously a terrible thing for the country. But not only that, it's going to have other unintended consequences, which perhaps Chris Bowen hasn't carefully thought through. Experts are warning it could also lead to greater demand from the coal industry and less demand and less people wanting to actually go to solar and use renewable energy. So ultimately, it may not even help the government meet its renewable energy targets. So perhaps they want to bring that one back to the drawing table.
Before we go, I want to get a quick comment from both of you about the decision this afternoon, our time, for the New Yorkers to have elected Zoran Mandami as their next mayor. He gave a long-winded socialist diatribe as an acceptance speech, much of it aimed at Donald Trump. Have a listen.
And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one.
Nicolle, I can't see how New Yorkers voted for this bloke. He wants to hit the rich even harder. 1% of New York's population pay 50% of the taxes. The rich are going to leave. Everything basically under this bloke is for free. But on the issue of 9/11, he's made it less about the victims of 9/11 and more about poor old Muslims and women in headscarves, how they felt in the years after 9/11. in New York City. I think if you were a Jewish American living in Manhattan or anywhere in the boroughs of New York, you would feel very, very uncomfortable tonight.
This is an extraordinary decision by voters in New York, and gosh, I think it's hugely concerning as to how this will unfold, not just for all of the reasons that you've mentioned, Peter, but such an aggressive speech firmly aimed at Donald Trump. That's not good for the American people and for calm, stable democracy.
Yeah, I have to say, you know, Paris, London, and now Caroline, I think New York are basically cooked.
Well, I think it's very boring for New York because obviously economically he is a socialist. Trump calls him a communist. He's offering free freezes on rent, free public buses, and free childcare, and all of that obviously comes at a cost. Higher taxes for big companies, for the richest in society. As you say, they'll leave. But culturally, I think it's a real concern as well, not only because of the comments he's made about post-September 11, I mean, the worst terrorist attack on the West in recent times. But this is the biggest Jewish population in America. This is someone who refused to condemn genocidal slogans like globalize the Intifada during his campaign. He made something of a turnaround towards the end when he realized that it could cost him. But he is firmly pro-Palestine, has called the Jewish state an apartheid state, accused them of committing genocide in Gaza, which we know has not happened. And this is someone who's going to be leading the biggest Jewish state, a Jewish city in the world. I think it's really disturbing, some of his extremist rhetoric. But the one silver lining could be that it does, well, at least for Trump and the MAGA movement, is that it attracts even more people to that, because Trump will use this to say to Americans from all over the country that this is where the Democratic Party is heading. And if you vote for me and my people, my team, at the next election, then you're going to be saved from this happening to your own city or state. So not great for New York, but perhaps positive for the rest of the country in the future.
We will see. You're an optimist. I think there's going to be a hell of a lot of damage done before we get to that point, but we'll see. We'll see. Leave it there. Thank you both. Last night during the 2020